As I've gotten older, it seems like there's more violence in the world today than when I was younger, or it's just publicized more because we have 24-hour news. Well, right now we have the wars in Ukraine and Israel, and it seems like in every age there's some type of war. I don't think any of us would want to be in war, but at the same time we're all grateful for those who defend us and fight for our freedom. But one thing that we find when we pay attention to the news is that in war, there's so many atrocities on both sides. Many innocent people die or are exposed to violence and brutality. It's hard to imagine what it must feel like to be displaced from your home or to lose family and friends who you were talking with only days before. Now, most people, when they see injustices like this, they can't help but desire a better world. They speak about and pray for peace. But an important question when we pray for peace is, are we doing those things that promote peace? Are we living according to the will of God? In our first reading, we heard about the Levites. They're not living upright lives. They cause many to stumble by their instruction, and they show partiality. In a word, they're breaking the covenant that the Lord made with Levi. Well, God's speaking out against them, and He's threatening them because they're meant to be examples to others. The priests, like the priests in the church today, they were called to holiness so that through their relationship with God and the sacrifices that they offered, they could lead others to Him. Now, aside from just the seriousness of them being priests, what stands out is the communal aspect of the choices they make, which this applies to us too. The priests, or anyone for that matter, aren't in a bubble, as if their actions and the way they live only affects them. I'd say violence can breed violence, and sinful behavior can breed sinful behavior. And we hear this from Malachi. The Levites, they're sinful, and because of their sinfulness, they're teaching others to sin and to disobey the law of God. A theme in the book of Malachi is him speaking out against the people of God because they don't keep His precepts and they complain unjustly against God. But as I read in a commentary, if they keep the covenant and remain faithful to God, then they'll be blessed and they'll amaze the world. They'll amaze the world if they remain faithful to God. Now, think about our own lives for a minute. It's clear from sin that we're disordered. Our passions, they can get out of control, and we can move so far away from God that we barely recognize ourselves. Well, there's meant to be harmony in our souls, where everything, our lower nature and our passions, are properly ordered and directed to God. And we find some of this harmony when we practice the moral virtues, but it's ultimately God's grace that establishes harmony and peace in our souls. In a similar way, we could speak about the world. There's chaos, violence, war, and so forth. And mankind is capable of moving away from this and finding some peace by working together. But it's ultimately when people turn to God and work to establish His kingdom in the world that we'll find true harmony and peace. But this process, it should start with all of us, the individual, by becoming aware of that communal aspect of our lives. Jesus, He was aware of this in the gospel. That's why He tells the Jews, do and observe all the things the scribes and Pharisees did tell them, but don't follow their example. Their example will end up leading them astray. It'll lead them to pride and self-conceit rather than humility and service to God and His people. In our second reading, St. Paul has loving affection for the Thessalonians, and he speaks about how he and the other disciples have toiled for their sake so that they could know the gospel. And this toil, it wasn't just proclaiming the gospel like the Pharisees, but it was also living it. And it's their words accompanied by their actions that drew people to Christ and established them in His peace. And so, what do? Well, I think all of us would like that harmony and peace that Christ provides. But like St. Paul, it takes toil and labor. The saints weren't saints until they died. They worked all their lives towards this end. Thomas A. Kempis, the author of Imitation of Christ, he said, "All men desire peace, but all do not care for the things that go to make true peace." Well, in this same dialogue, Jesus says to the soul that to find peace, you must at all times pay attention to what you are doing and what you're saying, and make it your constant intention to please me alone, neither desiring nor seeking anything apart from me. Do not make rash judgments on what others say or do, and do not concern yourself about things not committed to your care. I think a mistake that we can make when we're seeking peace is to think that peace is when everything is calm or is going our way. But Christ, continuing this dialogue in this book, says, do not think you have found true peace if you feel no grief, nor that all is well if no one opposes you, nor that you have arrived at perfection if everything goes the way you want. True peace, brothers and sisters, is found when we completely surrender ourselves to God, when we're not seeking what's most pleasing to us, but what's most pleasing to Him. If we daily pray for peace and want to see peace in the world, then we have to first find peace in our own lives by daily seeking and doing those things that are pleasing to God, by conforming our lives to His. And when we do this, then everything we do, it's going to flow from Christ. We'll live in His peace, and we'll pass that peace on to others. Just as violence can breed violence and sinful behavior can breed sinful behavior, so love, particularly our love for God and God's love for us, it can breed love and help establish the peace of Christ in the hearts of others.